To keep you is no benefit. To destroy you is no loss. These chilling words became the reality for millions of Cambodians under the brutal rule of the Khmer Rouge. Between 1975 and 1979, Cambodia was engulfed in a nightmare of violence, starvation, and mass murder, one of the darkest chapters in modern history. This is the story of the killing fields. To understand how Cambodia descended into chaos, we must go back to the mid-20th century. After gaining independence from France in 1953, Cambodia found itself caught in the crosscurrents of the Cold War and regional conflicts. The country was ruled by King Norodom Sihanouk, who sought to navigate this turbulent era by maintaining neutrality. However, Cambodia's neutrality would be shattered as the Vietnam War escalated. The United States, fearing the spread of communism in Southeast Asia, launched a secret bombing campaign in Cambodia, targeting North Vietnamese forces hiding along the border. These bombings devastated the Cambodian countryside, killing thousands of civilians and destabilizing the government. Amidst this chaos, a radical communist group known as the Khmer Rouge, led by a former schoolteacher named Pol Pot, began to gain power. The Khmer Rouge promised to liberate the country from corruption and foreign influence. By exploiting the widespread discontent, they gained support, particularly among the rural population. After 5 years of civil war, the Khmer Rouge captured Phnom Penh on April 17, 1975. What followed was a systematic dismantling of Cambodian society as it was. Pol Pot and his regime envisioned a radical transformation of Cambodia into a classless, agrarian utopia. To achieve this, they sought to erase all traces of modernity, capitalism, and intellectualism. The Khmer Rouge implemented an extreme form of agrarian socialism, where private property, money, and religion were abolished. One of their first acts was to evacuate the cities. Phnom Penh, a bustling metropolis of over 2 million people, was emptied in just a few days. The sick, the elderly, and even hospital patients were forced to leave at gunpoint. The population was herded into the countryside to begin a new life in agricultural labor camps. The Khmer Rouge believed that only the peasantry was pure and uncorrupted, and they sought to remake all of society in this image. The regime's policies were brutal. Intellectuals, professionals, and anyone with ties to the former government were seen as enemies of the state. Wearing glasses or speaking a foreign language could be a death sentence. The Khmer Rouge closed schools, banned religion, and persecuted monks, teachers, and anyone who dared to dissent. Cambodia was to become a self-sufficient, agrarian state, an ideal that would be enforced with unimaginable cruelty. The regime's policies were brutal. Wearing glasses or speaking a foreign language could be a death sentence. Once a confession was obtained, the prisoners were transported to the killing fields, the final destination in the Khmer Rouge's machinery of death. Queen Ek, located just outside Phnom Penh, was one of the largest and most notorious of these sites. Here, under the cover of night, prisoners were led to their deaths. Bound and blindfolded, they were forced to kneel at the edge of mass graves. The Khmer Rouge, ever resource-conscious, sought to save bullets. Instead, they used whatever was at hand, iron bars, axes, hammers, and machetes, to carry out the executions. The brutality was systematic. Babies were torn from their mothers' arms and killed by being smashed against trees, their bodies discarded into the same pits as their parents. The cries of the dying were drowned out by propaganda music blaring from loudspeakers, a grotesque attempt to maintain order and prevent panic among those awaiting their turn. The blood soaked into the earth, and the bodies piled up, layer upon layer, until the graves could hold no more. Many of these graves remain undisturbed to this day, a haunting reminder of the atrocities committed. The terror of the Khmer Rouge extended far beyond the confines of S-21 and the killing fields. Across Cambodia, millions were subjected to forced labor, starvation, and disease as part of the regime's radical social engineering. Cities were emptied, and the entire population was forced into the countryside to toil in collective farms and labor camps. The conditions were brutal, food was scarce, and those who could not keep up were often beaten, left to die, or executed as traitors. Ethnic minorities were particularly targeted in this campaign of genocide. The Cham Muslims, ethnic Vietnamese, and other minority groups faced systematic extermination. Entire communities were wiped out, entire cultures nearly erased. Children were either indoctrinated into the Khmer Rouge ideology or killed, seen as nothing more than future threats. In their pursuit of a utopian society, the Khmer Rouge left a legacy of death and destruction that nearly obliterated a once vibrant culture. By the time the Khmer Rouge was overthrown in 1979, an estimated 1.7 to 2 million Cambodians, nearly a quarter of the population, had perished. The true scale of the genocide would only be fully understood in the years that followed. As the mass graves were unearthed, the survivors told their stories, and the world began to comprehend the depth of the atrocities committed. Today, the killing fields stand as both a memorial to the victims and a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked power and ideology. The reign of terror came to an end in January 1979, when Vietnamese forces invaded Cambodia and captured Phnom Penh. The Khmer Rouge fled to the jungles, where they would continue to wage a guerrilla war for years. However, their hold on the country was broken, and a new government was established under Vietnamese protection. But the aftermath of the genocide left Cambodia in ruins. The economy was shattered, the population decimated, and the trauma of the Khmer Rouge era left deep scars in the national psyche. For many years, the international community did little to hold the perpetrators accountable. Pol Pot and other top leaders of the Khmer Rouge lived in relative freedom, some even supported by foreign governments during the Cold War. It was not until 2006 that the Extraordinary Chambers in the Courts of Cambodia, or ECCC, was established to try senior Khmer Rouge leaders for crimes against humanity. While the trials have brought some measure of justice, they have been criticized for their slow pace and limited scope. To this day, many Cambodians feel that the full extent of the crimes committed during the Khmer Rouge era has not been fully addressed. The impact of the Khmer Rouge genocide on Cambodian society cannot be overstated. The loss of nearly a quarter of the population left a profound void. Families were torn apart, entire generations were lost, and the social fabric of the nation was irrevocably damaged. Survivors of the genocide have spent decades grappling with the trauma of their experiences. Many have shared their stories to ensure that the world does not forget what happened. Memorials like the Queen Ek Killing Fields and the Tuol Sleng Genocide Museum serve as stark reminders of the atrocities committed. They are places of mourning and reflection, where Cambodians and visitors from around the world can pay their respects to the victims. Despite the horrors of the past, Cambodia has shown remarkable resilience. The Cambodian people have worked tirelessly to rebuild their country, reviving their rich cultural heritage and looking toward a brighter future. But the memories of the killing fields remain ever present, a solemn reminder of the fragility of peace and the importance of vigilance against tyranny. The international response to the Cambodian genocide was slow and, in many ways, inadequate. During the Khmer Rouge's rule, the world largely turned a blind eye to the atrocities taking place. It was only after the regime's fall that the true extent of the genocide became widely known. In the years that followed, international organizations and governments provided aid to help Cambodia recover. However, the path to justice has been long and fraught with challenges. The ECCC has convicted several senior Khmer Rouge leaders, but many believe that these trials came too late and addressed only a fraction of the crimes committed. As we reflect on the dark history of Cambodia's killing fields, we must also recognize the strength and resilience of its people. The Cambodian genocide is a stark reminder of the horrors that can unfold when hatred and tyranny go unchecked. It is a chapter in history that must never be forgotten, and it is our collective responsibility to ensure that such atrocities never happen again.